What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, guys, so we are basically going to continue our coverage over the Reign of X era of X-Men comics, and we actually pick up with Excalibur number 16. Now, this is going to be the first time we actually pick up with the Excalibur team after the huge X-Asaurus crossover event that we had covered. Now, with all that being said, of course, we pick up with Excalibur number 16. And with that being said, the Excalibur team had went through a lot in the X-Asaurus crossover event. But of course, the one thing that hurt the team the most was the death of Betsy Braddock, the Captain Britain. She died in the X-Asaurus crossover event. Or, well, we were left to believe that she had died in the middle of that crossover event. And so right now, we're seeing the team trying to move on after the death of Betsy Braddock, the Captain Britain, at this point in Marvel Comics. And so that is why we actually do pick up with Rogue and Gambit right now actually missing Betsy Braddock. Now, if you're wondering why the X-Men just don't bring her back to life, because remember, thanks to Jonathan Hickman, he did introduce a new way for characters to come back to life. And so for the X-Men, what they did was they were able to get 5 mutants who had the ability to make you a clone body. And with that clone body, they're able to download your memories into that clone body so that you're basically brought back to life, even though it's not really you. It's just a newer version of you. But of course, you're wondering why the X-Men won't do that. Well, you have to remember, because Betsy Braddock died in Otherworld, when mutants are brought back to life who died in Otherworld, of course, they come back corrupted. Now, when I say corrupted, I don't mean like they came back evil, want to kill everything in their path. What I mean is that they're not themselves. They're completely different. Or sometimes, in some cases, they're just a shell of who they used to be. Just a body there, but of course, no memories or anything about their past life can be installed into their body. And so with that, Betsy Braddock technically cannot be brought back to life because she died in Otherworld. Now, of course, thanks to X-Asaurus, Betsy Braddock wasn't the only character to be lost thanks to the X-Asaurus crossover event. Because remember, Apocalypse also left as well. Now, he didn't die. It's just that after winning the war against Araco, Saturnine told everyone that basically they have to give up one mutant to the other side. And Apocalypse decided to give up himself to go to the other side, Armeth, with his wife and kids. And so Apocalypse is no longer on Earth at all. And of course, we saw that at the end of the X-Asaurus crossover event. Now, with that being said, it's kind of hard for Rictor to move on because it was Apocalypse who kind of helped Rictor get his powers under control, but to have Rictor actually rejoin the X-Men or actually join the Excalibur team, but of course to enjoy his life once again. And so with Rictor right now, it's kind of like he's upset with the idea that Apocalypse is no longer around. Now you can take this as like Rictor maybe has some kind of feelings for Apocalypse, or possibly he looked at Apocalypse like a father figure or a big brother figure. Either way, Rictor is very upset with the idea that Apocalypse is now gone. Now, we actually do pick up at the Green Lagoon. Now, the Green Lagoon is basically just the bar on Krakoa, or one of the many bars on Krakoa that is actually run by Blob. And honestly, I like Blob. Like, I was a huge fan of Blob growing up because of the X-Men Evolution TV show, but also because of X-Men Legends on the PS2 and GameCube, I think too. I think it was PS2 for me. But either way though, when it comes to Blob, I'm a huge fan, and to see him just have a relaxing life, just running his bar, but also helping out different X-Men teens or characters with their problems as they drink is kind of like, Blob, you have the simple life on the island. And I like that. But either way, though, you do have the Excalibur team coming back together to kind of talk to one another about the idea of them mourning the death of Betsy Braddock. Now, Rictor is actually very upset that no one cares that Apocalypse is gone. Now, Apocalypse is not dead. He's just in in Armeth, another dimension. So he cannot come back because, again, at the end of the big war of X of Swords, each side had to give up a mutant to the other side, and Apocalypse basically chose himself. And so Apocalypse is not dead. He's just gone in Armeth with his wife and kids. But for Rictor, he feels like nobody cares that Apocalypse is gone. Now, of course, for Gambit, he's kind of like, no, I don't care. He used my wife, Rogue, as part of his master plan, but did not tell her what could possibly happen to her. And so Gambit is very upset. But either way, though, you do have X Factor actually called up the Excalibur team to have a conversation with them. And so they do go over to the Boneyard. Now, the Boneyard is basically the home of the X Factor team. And remember, when it comes to X Factor in X-Men comics after the year 2000, X Factor was really more a detective team in a way. But of course, right now in the Reign of X, it's still the same way. Basically, a group of mutants who kind of work on different cases, really more murder cases, for the island of COPPA. Now, of course, with all that being said, the reason why they called up Excalibur is because they want to tell Excalibur, after going around doing some investigation work, they said basically Betsy Braddock is not dead. She's alive, possibly. Now, of course, to Excalibur, they're like, no, she's dead. We watch her die, or we heard she died. Because remember, most of the members of Excalibur was not there at that big war when Betsy Braddock died. And so, of course, they're left to believe that she actually died, but you have X Factor tell us, no, she's not dead. We heard what happened to her. She just broke into a billion pieces, but Saturn picked up those pieces and walked away. And so right now it's X Factor saying there's a huge chance that basically Betsy Braddock is alive. Now, again, X Factor is only telling Excalibur this because Excalibur wants to try to bring back Betsy Braddock by, of course, the whole resurrection process. But again, they said we can't do that for two reasons. One, because she possibly died in Otherworld. But two, we come to find out she did not die. There's a possibility she is alive because Saturn did pick up all of those broken pieces. And Otherworld is a realm full of magic. So go back there and figure out what actually happened to Betsy Braddock. And so you do have the Excalibur team actually go back over to Otherworld. Now, of course, remember, Otherworld is kind of like this central point to all the different dimensions or universe across the multiverse in Marvel Comics. Now, with that being said, Avalon is one of the many kingdoms that's actually part of Otherworld. Now, Avalon is actually ruled by the brother of Brian Braddock and Betsy Braddock, and that brother is Jamie Braddock. Now, remember, Jamie Braddock is a very powerful character. And matter of fact, he has the ability to warp reality, which he did, and made 4 new Captain Britons, and all that took place before Exosaurus and also in the middle of Exosaurus as well. But either way, though, when it comes to Jamie Braddock, he is the king of Avalon. Now, his brother and Betsy Braddock brother, Brian Braddock, is right now known as Captain Avalon. And of course, that means he's kind of like the knight to Jamie Braddock and Jamie Braddock Kingdom. Now, either way, though, you do have the Excalibur team come to Otherworld because that is the best way to begin to figure out how in the world can they bring back Betsy Braddock. Now, with that being said, of course, they do run into the wife and daughter of Brian Braddock. Now, when it comes to the daughter of Brian Braddock, she is very intelligent. Like, she is very smart. Matter of fact, she first appeared back in, I want to say, X-Men Gold Annual #1. And when she did appear, I think it was like she was 3 months years old and she was able to like talk in full sentences better than most people can. Like, that's her ability. She's just very smart for her age. And matter of fact, right now she's kind of like 3, I guess, maybe 2, and she's still very intelligent, which means that there is a possibility she could one day rival against Reed Richards and Doctor Doom as well. But either way, though, it is her telling the Excalibur team to kind of take her mother, who has a connection to Otherworld, to hopefully figure out what actually happened to Betsy Braddock. Now, there is something else I do want to mention. When it comes to Brian Braddock and Jamie Braddock, there is bad blood between them because Jamie Braddock had caused a lot of problems for their family, especially for Betsy Braddock as well. And so when it comes to Jamie, right now, even though he's king of Avalon and his brother is basically his knight, his brother still hates him with a passion. Now, of course, Jamie has been saying he could use his powers as a way to bring back Betsy Braddock because, again, he has the ability to warp reality. But, of course, no one is down to let him do that. But either way, you do have Jamie say, you know what? Never mind. I have other plans in motion. And so he walks away. But when he does, he's wearing the cape of Sinister. Because remember, in the middle of X of Swords, when Sinister needed access to Arachdo, he had to make a deal with Jamie Braddock, which that deal was completed. But of course, Sinister had to give up his cape. And so, of course, it's just Marvel reminding us that Jamie has the cape that belongs to Sinister. Now, we do see Excalibur and the wife of Brian Braddock, which, if I remember her name correctly, it is Maggie Braddock. I get her and their daughter confused because their name is very similar to one another. But either way, though, you do have Maggie Braddock go with Excalibur out into Otherworld. Now, when it comes to Maggie Braddock, we have to remember that she is half mutant, half fairy. And so, of course, with her being a fairy, she does have a connection to the Otherworld realm. And so, of course, as soon as she walks outside of Avalon into the open area of Otherworld, she begins to feel a huge connection to Otherworld, which of course begins something. Now, of course, Excalibur has no idea what's happening to her. It's not bad, it's actually good, but again, they have no idea what's happening to her. And so you have Rictor actually open up a book that used to belong to Apocalypse. And of course, that means that this book is going to help him figure out what is actually happening to Maggie. Now, getting back over to Jamie Braddock, we actually do see him go meet up with Sinister. Now, remember, when Sinister made that deal to go over to Avalon, there was more to the deal rather than just handing over the cape that belonged to Sinister over to Jamie. Jamie said, "You still owe me something, even though I took your cape from you." Because again, Sinister did ask for a very huge deal. And so now it's Jamie want to cash in on that favor. And you have Jamie basically telling Sinister, "I need a body." Now, of course, we have no idea what he means. Actually, we do. He wants a clone body of somebody or someone close to him. But again, we have no idea who that person he wants a clone of. But either way, this is actually Jamie cashing in on his favor from Sinister. But getting back over to the Excalibur team, who's right now with Maggie, of course right now, Maggie is beginning to do some kind of spell. And with Rictor, he'll be able to actually help the spell actually go through. Now, we actually come to find out where they're at right now is actually the location of where Betsy Braddock died. And so, of course, they're trying to use this location as a way to see if there's a possibility that she is alive somewhere in Otherworld. And so, of course, what the spell does is, with the fairies and Excalibur and Maggie, they're going to try to use this spell as a way to kind of look around Otherworld or possibly other kind of universes out there to see if there's a possibility that Betsy Braddock is still alive somewhere. They just have to find her body or a location of her soul or something. And so that is what the spell is doing. It's calling out to the soul or body of Betsy Braddock. But here comes the problem though. except the spell actually called in the new version of the Captain Britain Corps. Now remember, the Captain Britain Corps has been around for years of Marvel Comics, and originally it was just a bunch of different versions of Brian Braddock, because apparently in every single universe, Brian Braddock becomes a Captain Britain in some cases, not all, but most cases. But of course, they made up the Captain Britain Corps, the multiverse team. Now, they all died in Jonathan Hickman's Avengers and New Avengers, but it was brought back once again in X of Swords. Now, of course, when it was kind of like different versions of Betsy Braddock. And that right there is kind of important, because the spell they were using was calling out for Betsy Braddock, her soul or body. But of course, it called in the Captain Britain Corps. And of course, they said they have been looking for Betsy Braddock because thanks to her, it was able to bring back a new beginning or a new era of Captain Britain Corps. And so right now they're saying, we're calling out for her. We're looking for her as well. Don't worry. We're going to find her, because we actually have been very concerned for her as well. Now, to go ahead and close off on this video, we actually do pick up with the main Marvel Universe Betsy Braddock, the one that actually died in the middle of X of Swords. Well, not really died, just broke into a billion pieces. But either way, though, we actually do see her trying to kind of put her mind back together, or possibly her soul is just out there in the multiverse trying to find her body or a body. And the reason why I say a body is because when she's able to actually wake back up, she's in bed, and she's in bed with Warren Warrington, aka Angel. And of course, it seems like they're now a couple. But here's the thing though, they're no longer a couple in the main Marvel Universe. And the question is now, is she in another universe, or a possibility that she's actually back in time where they were a couple? Who knows? But this is where we actually going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. Also, if you have any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But guys, I'll see y'all next time. Later.